Welcome back, y'all, to our roundtable discussions because a great movie doesn't end when the credits roll. That's where the conversation really starts. And today's conversation is all about fashion in film, how it affects the film, how it drives the film, and how sometimes it even comes out of the film. And for today's conversation, I have three amazing people joining because it's not just content creators this go around, y'all. So I'm super excited to have all of these people here to talk film and to talk fashion. So, first up, to introduce themselves, Emily, would you like to give yourself a little introduction as well as answering my favorite icebreaker question for this topic? If you could take anyone's style in a movie, what character's style would you take?
It's gonna be a crazy one, but I'll wait. So I'm Emily, also known as Emily on Film. I talk all things movies and TV online, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the places. And if I had the choice of anybody in recent memory, it's still a little crazy, but it would be Annie from Anora. Pause. Because her style is so she's just fully herself, always, bar none. Like, I am obsessed, even though I could not pull any of it off and would probably never wear any of it in public. I still am obsessed with her style, have always been.
Love it, love it. And Anora classic movie already, so I love the choice. Blair, would you like to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Blair James. I'm a costume designer and stylist. I recently just did Obsession. And if I had to pick a character, this is like definitely probably not what people would think I'd say, but probably Ryan Gosling and Hail Mary. I think the outfits in that are so fucking cool. The sweaters are like, I think about them at least like once a day. They're so good.
I literally went to our resident thrift shop down the road from me because they have a bunch of those like old timey looking sweaters, and I bought like two right after the movie, so I feel
Yeah, no, he rocked it.
love it. And to round us out, Andrew, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, how's it going? Andrew Montgomery, fashion content creator. It's a tough question, I would say. As much as I'd love to say Christian Bale, Dark Knight, peak lapels by day, batsuit by night, I would probably go with Patrick Bateman, American Psycho.
Ooh, I like some style
Very
there,
good
some
style.
awesome style. Well, thank you all so much for being here. We have a fun conversation really planned out here across a couple of topics around fashion and film. Starting off with fashion as storytelling. So, the first question, and Blair, I'm going to pass this one over to you, just coming off of a movie here. What role does fashion play in filmmaking for you?
Well, I'm very biased, obviously, but I think it plays a huge portion of it. And I think it allows the audience to understand who this character is, how they compare to not only like the people in their immediate surrounding, but the world in general. I think it helps tell class, it tells experience, it tells personality. Everything you wear comes with a conscious decision or a subconscious decision, but not everything is intentional, and whether you realize it or not. And so like I really like to bring that into film because I think that is a real true part of it is everything a character is wearing is to tell you about who they are and how they exist in the world that we're creating together as like a film.
Oh, that I love that. And as watchers, Emily, I'm going to pass it over to you first, and then I'll come over to you, Andrew. What role do you see it playing as you're watching a movie?
Yeah, I actually, when I was thinking about, these questions earlier, I don't know if I paid as much attention to those kinds of details until, not to blow any smoke, but seriously, Blair, when I started watching your videos is when I
Thank
actually
you.
started paying attention. Because, I mean, one thing in this world of film talk or whatever, when you start to think about movies in a more critical lens, I feel like you start to pick up on those things. And over the past year or so, realizing that everything, I mean 99.9% of the time, everything in a film, everything from the music to the fashion choices to all of it is so intentional. And so when you really sit down, like you were saying, Blair, everything, like whether it's conscious or subconscious, it's there for a reason. And I think that it's really important to be paying attention to those details because they tell you about a character even before the character tells you who they are, which is really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
And Andrew, as a stylist too, I know like for you specifically, you have some videos where you're talking about how you even just elevate style by these one or two little things. What do you see it personally, fashion playing a role in filmmaking?
Yeah, I think as I started to learn a bit more just kind of about how do I put it, the intentionality behind picking items and what you actually are trying to contribute to your look overall, you learn more about how expressionalism is so important with your own personal style, and then getting to see that in movies, right? Obviously, where you have you're kind of setting the tone, and as Blair had said, you're setting the scene for what the emotions are going to be, class, authority, all that types of all those types of things, right? And so it's yeah, I mean, just kind of gives you a general idea of where we're setting the film is probably the best way to put it.
For sure. And I mean, I think that goes perfectly into the next question I have for you all of a costume specifically. I mean, everyone surrounds, I feel, movies saying, I'm going to wear that as my Halloween costume. I mean, again, Project Hail Mary, that's my goal for this go around of Halloween. And I'm hearing so many Nikki and Bears and so many other conversations around costumes being so memorable they want to be that person. When does a costume become just as memorable as the character? Is it those moments where like people start shooting for, hey, I need to know how their style would have been completely? And Emily, I'm going to start this one for you.
Yeah, when does a costume become just as memorable? I think that when it hits global sensationalism, I feel like that's when things really take off. I know one of the characters I dressed up as many years ago was the character from the little boy from It who gets taken in the sewer, with the big yellow jacket and everything. And it's because I love that movie. It was also a huge hit. And I think that in our worlds, like the fashion or the film worlds, I feel like we see a lot more than maybe the sort of general public. I feel like in the general public this year, we are going to see a lot of Nickies and Bears because Obsession was a massive success. But then you have movies that are maybe smaller on a smaller scale that, we as people in film and also interested in fashion are going to pick up on, but some other people might not. So I think that for a character or a costume to be as memorable as the character, I think that it has to hit the like cultural zeitgeist.
Definitely. And Andrew, I'm going to pass it over to you too, because I know for you, you told me, oh, I feel like I'm a casual movie
Oh
watcher.
yeah.
Yeah, but like as a casual movie watcher though, like what are those moments that it's like I remember
Yeah.
this on my side?
Yeah, I would even like place it from the Halloween costume perspective is how do you push it to the general public? And more than anything, obviously your more fantastical storylines are going to be those ones that stick around a bit more just because they're so, out there. But how do you get maybe one of your more just standard run of the mill costumes to, have that, I guess, that chokehold on people, and it's the storyline behind it, or it's the dynamic of the characters. And, as you mentioned with maybe a Nikki and Bear, or you see, here comes the casual part where I can't just like pull stuff out of anywhere here. But, ultimately it's how much of an effect does it leave on the general population without them having to dig for it?
Hmm.
Yeah, and Blair, kind of a tweak to that question. Is that something that you like as a costume designer go for? Like, oh, this is going to be a moment. Like, do you look for those moments or even just see them on your side?
I do and I don't. For things like the Castle Music uniforms, like I definitely told Curry, like, we're gonna make this a Halloween costume. I was like, let's make this 100% distinct to this movie so that when people see it, they know it's from Obsession. But other things, like say just like Nikki's party outfit, I didn't create it with the idea of like, how do I make this rememberable? I think what makes things rememberable is because it makes the most sense for that character in that given moment. And obviously I also have taste as well. So like that also plays a part in it as well. But, I think when things are rememberable, it's because they're so grounded in what you're seeing. And I think Obsession as a whole, so like including the cinematography, the directing, the writing, the production design, everything involved, it all coherently worked together. And because of that, it created this like specific world that people attach to. So like you could have taken my costume work and put it somewhere else and it might have not landed the same way, which is why like I try to never copy anything and just kind of create from scratch. And like I'm a big trend predictor studier. Like I love watching and like learning about trend predictions. And I think it helps with film because we filmed this in October 24, and this came out obviously in May 26. So like I had to, for Obsession, I wanted to like predict trends essentially, like predict what I thought we were going to be at by the time it came out. And there's so many, it's kind of a hard question. There's so many attributes that happen to it. Relatability is a part of it. The more people can see themselves in something, the more they attach to it. So when building Nikki, I wanted her, Nikki and Bear, I just wanted them to look like normal people because people could actually attach to it. And like a lot of stuff in film and TV, no shade, I don't have access to it. It's like it sometimes doesn't make sense for people. It doesn't connect. And so for me, it was like really about making people connect to what they were seeing physically. And I think that's kind of a part of what made it memorable is people just related to it.
And I kind of want to follow up on your point here of where you said you can take the costume design out of Obsession and put it somewhere else. It might not work. Kind of want to ask the question, follow like the other side of the question. Can you put fashion into a movie and could it elevate maybe what we would see as an average film? I have a take on this, but I'm going to let you all go first on this one.
In my personal opinion, like as real as I made Obsession, I also made it cinematic in the way that everyone's clothes fit them. Everything was proper fits. It was to always accentuate the actor we're seeing. If the camera and the production design, everything gets to be elevated, why don't I get to elevate my work is kind of my take on it. So like as real as my stuff is per se, it's also cinematically elevated. And I do think that's a part of it. And I think that kind of like in my personal taste, I always want that a part of my work. I think it makes it more interesting. And like, you know, when you watch films, the brain gets excited by stuff it's never seen before. So like if you're just showing people something that they've seen before, but not in an elevated way, it like doesn't land, I don't think, as much as like a memorable look.
And that's a great interpretation of like how I asked that, because I went the other way of like, can just fashion elevate a film kind of thing. No, you gave us, that is what I want to hear, you know? Because for me, I'm looking at it from that just direct point of view of it could, because the first movie that comes to mind is Forbidden Fruits from this past year, where it was like, it felt like more of a fashion-led film than anything else. Like that's where they started with elevated, and then everything came up from there. But same question to you, Andrew. Any thoughts around it?
You know, I don't know if I have too much of an opinion on if it would bring the film up as a whole. You know, maybe my hot take is that I don't think Devil Wears Prada is the most intriguing like storyline ever, but I love the outfits in it, right? So, you know, I'd say it's, you know, pretty objective there, but I would even niche it down to maybe a character, right? Like, for example, with the Odyssey that just came out, Agamemnon, otherwise pretty boring character, but everyone's going to remember the costume that was picked for him there. So,
Huge aura farming. We love some
yeah.
aura.
Very much.
I mean, going on Odyssey, Emily, I mean, our resident Odyssey aficionado, I feel like. How do you feel about the question?
Speaking of Forbidden Fruits, I think it's actually, for me, hard to separate the two things because though it's a very fashion-led film, it could be just like a fashion show, essentially. It's all intentional. It's all part of why, like, you're drawn to it. All of those outfits, I mean, I'm not a costume designer, but it seems to me that all of the outfits, based on the story, are there on purpose. They're meant for you to see those girls and be like, I'm so bought in, like eye candy, like Blair was saying, I've never seen something like this done before. / it's part of the story. It's part of these girls who are like part of this like super like girly coven who, you know, are doing all these crazy things. And I think that the camp of it is what makes the story, is what propels the story too. So I think it's really hard for me to separate those two things. I don't know if there's a universe I can think of where fashion alone could propel a story. I think that they work so much in tandem that they both have to be there, you know?
Love it.
Yeah.
Love
I think that is because fashion is like storytelling. And like, I don't think a lot of people want to recognize that because I've like met a lot of people and talked to people that they think like fashion is like superficial. And like, I'm always like, no, it's actually very artistic. Like, even if you're not into it, it's artistic. There is so much meaning behind everything, and I kind of agree with you. It's like I don't know if it could drive a story. Because people just want stories. So if there's nothing juicy there, then it's like the fashion doesn't work per se, because we're not getting that like underlining like belly of the like information of the story that drives the looks being what they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, kind of going to the part, I want to rewind here, like Agamemnon, the mention has already been made. I want to pivot to costume design versus fashion as a topic. And I feel like this is something that has come into play. And I think, honestly, like, seriously, no glaze here. Blair, I think you starting the TikTok series of explaining the costuming of Nikki and just overall obsession really helped build that question out even more of like, what is the difference between costume design and fashion? How do they meet in the middle even? So to kind of go straight into the question here, what separates great costume design from simply dressing an actor well?
Well, they're very interchangeable, and there's a lot that goes into it because okay, so like film widens everything. So like everyone like gets widened on a screen, like regardless of you could literally be like this and you're gonna be widened. It's like there's a stretch factor to it. So when you're dressing for film, it's a little different than just dressing someone to look good. And there is a fine balance of wanting to make people look appealing. Like for me, like Bear, I didn't want Bear to like be super like dress unattractively. I wanted him to have some kind of like attractiveness quality to him, because I felt like that was the best choice for that. And so I think it comes down to choice sometimes, but no one wants to. There are very few actors, I think, that want to look really unattractive on camera. And so you also, when you're doing costume design, you're holding in your hands like the safety and protection of how someone feels about themselves and their body. And people can't separate that with costumes. So, I think there is a sense of like, you want to protect the person as well. As much as you are making art, you want to protect the person you're building that art on. So I think it's a fine balance of like, again, that cinematic value, but still kind of getting the thing across.
Most definitely. And on the other side of it, as an audience member, as a watcher, as an analyzer of film, Andrew, I'm going to start with you, and Emily, I'll move over to you. Are these something, I know, Emily, you actually touched on this a little bit. Is this something that you kind of tap into as you're watching the film? Like, are you noticing the costumes? Was it something you more recently started to notice? Yeah, Andrew, I'll start with you.
I think for me personally, it was something that once I started caring about it myself, now I can't watch a movie and without like really only looking at that. Like that's all I'm looking at most of the time. Now I'm following the story as any movie watcher would be, but I can't take my eyes off the fact I'm always trying to be like, it'll be like, oh, I love that girl's pants, or like I love the way that like they did this person's, belt or a certain accessory, and just, you notice the random little things once you care about it from a fashion perspective. Um, Now, obviously, from a general audience thing, I feel like you're looking at it just as a more of the whole body of work there, rather than just the little one-offs. But it's probably, yeah, best answer I got.
Yeah, no, that's great. And Emily, how about you?
Um, I think that, I mean, like I mentioned earlier, that I only started recently paying attention to those things, so much so that when I was doing my Spider-Man rewatch for the new movie coming out tonight, I randomly noticed that in the second movie, I forget what they're all called. I think it's Far From
From home?
Girl, Far From Home. That one. So that's when Ned and Betty are like kind of together and kind of not. And I looked at my boyfriend. I'm like, oh my god, they're both wearing stripes. Like, and that was like so distinctive from everybody else. Like in one of the scenes, he was wearing I think like a black or like maybe a pink button down with black stripes, and she had like something kind of like this that was black with pink stripes or something like that. I'm like, oh my god, because they're together. And then if you just you started to I started to notice that like throughout the entire movie, and at the very end, even though they like separate because they only got together for the trip, they're still wearing opposite like patterns of each other. So like blue with I think black polka dots and then something similar that she was wearing, and I was like, oh wow. And I just never paid attention to those things before. So I think that yeah, I love when particularly for me, I love when fashion tells the story before you actually hear it happening on screen, like before the thing happens, before the big reveal or whatever, when um what they're wearing, even like in music, that's my background, you know, when you start to kind of hear certain things in music that tell you, that propel that story forward before the story, before the characters, before the screenplay start to tell you what's happening. I think that's my favorite aspect of that sort of like storytelling.
Sure. And I'm now going to take a step back here. I'm going to go back to the Odyssey here because I do have a question around historical accuracy. I feel like it's a question that we've seen a lot around the movie itself, but one I really don't think we're tapping into outside of, oh, it looks like, or some people have mentioned, this looks like they went to Party City and picked up an outfit, like for some of the characters, right? So, but then there are those people that are saying, no, that looks fine to me. Like, I think they would use that. When is historical accuracy important, and when should filmmakers prioritize style?
Well, first off, Party City gets it from history. So, like, saying it looks like it's from Party City is so silly. I have a really wild take on historical accuracy. You are never going to be able to find the materials and type of fabric that you would have 50 years ago. It's just not really possible, which is why people love thrifting, because that quality is just unbeatable compared to anything that's being made today. But for me, something that really changed my entire life on this is when I watched the Bob Dylan movie with Timothée Chalamet. And something I really liked about the costumes is it felt like the modern take on that time period. And at first I was like, why does this feel kind of modern? And then I was like, wait, this is kind of cool to like not just copy what we've seen and what we know, but to add a modern taste to it as we are making this movie in modern times. Now, I know one of my best friends is like an art history major, and they have very heavy notes on the Odyssey and the historical accuracy around it. But I do think, again, it's cinema. There's an elevation and a change to it. And I think it is kind of cool when people take modern takes and add it into historical things. I think it's cool. I think it's really interesting. But I do understand where people get upset. I think with stuff like the Odyssey, you're just bound to get historical buffs upset about what they're seeing, you know?
I mean, and I like that you brought up like a complete unknown as well. Like those moments. Like for me, I always go back to Dazed and Confused style, where I like an oversized, like button down feel. Like when I'm just walking around. I mean, being from Texas, Andrew, I'm sure you've seen it. It's very much, I think, your style too, if I'm not mistaken, from what I know of you. And yeah, I'm totally on board with that take. But Emily, how about you?
Yeah, this one's a tricky one for me too because I feel like at the end of the day, ooh, don't cancel me. At the end of the day, art is art, is art, is art, you know? And I think that we've just been around for so long that there's no way that we wouldn't, you know, take art and make it our own over and over and over again, like as a society. And so when it comes to filmmaking, I feel like it's a beautiful thing. First of all, it hurts my heart for to hear like those kinds of comments, like the Party City comments, and like these costume designers have been doing this for so long, like this is their life's work, you know. And to hear, like, if I heard that about something I made, I'd be done. But you gotta roll with the punches, because that's just like what you hear all the time, you know, in this line of work. But I think that it's particularly tough, and we're talking about like the Odyssey. I cannot imagine them getting anything done with like period piece armor in the water. Like, yeah, they had to do that back then, but honey, we've evolved for a reason, you know. And also, if we're making a movie and we have X amount of time to make a movie, it's a little bit easier, I would think, to have like, you know, pieces of cloth that are just kind of falling off versus a full head to toe armor that is gonna maybe like cause you to drown in the water that Christopher Nolan is forcing you to get into, you know?
Yeah.
So I think that
Or like overheat the actor too.
overheat the
People don't understand that either. You can't. There are things you cannot do physically to people's bodies and harm them that way. It's
yeah,
like
and
that.
also like
Yeah, I get that.
like they were soldiers back then. Like actual soldiers. These are actors doing a lot of crazy work. Oh my gosh. But like, give and take.
Yeah.
There are certain takes about the film, that I don't agree with. People getting upset over silly things, in my opinion. But yeah, this is one of those where it's like it looked great. I thought the film looked amazing, and I thought that what they worked with in the whole costume department kicked ass. They did
Yeah,
amazing.
they
You know,
shot it
so
too. Like she worked in like 8 different
what do
countries
you mean?
doing it, and like you also people have no idea like what the environment is when they're shooting. Like this did not take just 1 month. This is not like Obsession. We didn't shoot this in 1 month. Like they shot this for a really long time over a span of multiple locations with different environments. And like I just did a movie in Thailand, and the humidity is so intense there during it's like winter, but it's like summer there. But like it was just like there were so many complications with the costumes because of how intense the heat was, and you have to accommodate that for people because you can't have people having heat strokes on set. Like it literally is an issue.
Right.
Well, thank you all for helping us distinguish costume design versus acting here. No, I think it's great, and I think one thing I kind of want to hone in on now, and Blair, you kind of touched on it with a complete unknown, is the influences on pop culture that fashion has and fashion in film. So, what are some films or some of the characters that you all notice maybe have made an impact on fashion trends? I mean, for me, I felt like once Marty Supreme came out, everyone wanted to maybe have some more oversized like khakis out and about, and like even I bought the shoes, the what's it called, the 60 style shoes from the movie as well. So Andrew, I'm going to start with you on this one.
You see, this is where it's going to be hard for me because I can't necessarily pull a movie from an era and tell you like, how it had juxtaposed against what was going on then. I guess what I would like to point out would be all the movies, especially in like the 2000s with the dramas centered around like Wall Street, things like that. You start to see how the outfits on Wall Street had started to change, whether at one point it got a bit baggier or, some other people that were maybe a bit more successful were incorporating a bit more detail into their suits, whether it be a pinstripe or, a wider stripe on the shirt. You could even call back to Bateman because the idea there is he's supposed to be like a signal of authority, and he's like I'm better than you type of look, and that's something that you've seen a lot happen, especially in like suiting, and that's probably my best reference there. But
That's a great no, I think The Wolf of Wall Street's a great reference, honestly, because I mean I see it too. I have friends that work at some of the big four, and their suits are not the most tailored in the world anymore. Like it's very interesting to see how even style has changed, where typically it was a suit every single day. So Emily, passing it over to you.
Yeah, I'm looking at my letterbox list. I'm like, what movies have come out recently that might change the landscape? Again, not to say, but Obsession, it just is what it is. It just is what it is, girl. I don't know what to tell you. I feel like there have been so many, like even me. I've always loved the big chunky, like that I know Indie wears as well. She has like this big, like black, um, it was really popular, I believe, in like the early 2000s, late 90s, where it was like it's like a string, like a fabricy string. I don't know. I'm not a
With
fashion
like an
person.
acrylic stone.
Yes, yes, I'm obsessed with that. But I remember seeing that in like limited two when I was a wee babe, and now it's coming back in like huge, and I'm seeing it everywhere. But I am seeing it as a reference to the style that was birthed out of this amazing movie, And so I think that that's a really big one. I don't know if there's much else that I could like point back at as far as something that would change the landscape. But actually, I think Project Hail Mary was a pretty big movie, and I do remember the internet talking about those sweaters, talking about his fashion a lot. So that could also be something that not so much
Glasses,
changes. Yeah, go ahead.
the glasses too.
The glasses.
I've
Yeah.
I saw so many Instagram ads that were like, oh,
Oh,
the glasses. So yeah, go
yeah.
on. with you. I'm with you.
Yeah, I think that it's more kind of what you were saying, Blair, too, that you try when you work in this industry and you're making movies years from when they're going to be, they're going to be out to the public. You have to, if you're going to make a movie of the time or an art piece of the time, you have to predict those trends. And so I feel like what we're kind of seeing is a lot of that just happening naturally in the environment, as these movies are also like, have trendsetters working behind the scenes, making sure that when the movie does come out, it makes sense. So I think that it can be a little bit of both.
How about you, Blair?
I'm working on this piece I'm writing about how movies made flannels popular, like post 90s, because like flannels have a crazy history with like the like practicalness versus like in the 90s it became like counterculture. But when you watch film, it's literally like just drenched in flannels. I don't know if you notice an obsession. There's one, because I'm like kind of anti flannel right now because I feel like it's a cop out, and it's become a cop out in costume design work because film made it popular. Because someone somewhere, the flannel became popular, and then every movie you saw from 2000 to 2018, the leading man always wore a t-shirt and a flannel. And that is like something that I have like really been noticing. And when it's crazy, when you go out in public, you don't see that many flannels. But you're in Texas, so that's a little different. There's a culture thing with those flannels, but it's something that I really started taking note of. And I was like, oh, that's because a lot of people, when people don't know themselves in their clothes, they don't know how to express themselves, they fall on pop culture and they fall onto movies and TV, because anything that's projected to a wide mass of people, the average person will look at it and say, that is the correct way that I should be presenting myself. And it's a subconscious thing people do. And that's why things like Pinterest are really huge. That's why fashion influencers are huge, because there are people out there that need people to guide them to what they need to go to. And I think, unfortunately, this might be the truth, but like Nikki and Bear could have worn like completely different outfits and people still would have attached to it just because of the popularity and the wide mass spread that the film had. And that is like the true reality of it, is like people attach to what they see the most. Your brain accepts things the more you see it. So that's kind of like my hot take on it. It's like it can it pretty much it influences pop culture. It can influence pop culture in a multiple ways, but I think it's really because people need something to attach to, and they will attach to the thing that they see the most of. Low key.
Definitely. That's so funny. Yes, no, I totally get that. And I mean, I'm not gonna lie, I went into my closet and picked out my oversized old school golf sweater. That once I saw Obsession, I'm not
No,
gonna lie.
heck yeah.
But yeah, I definitely pulled that out. And I mean, me and Andrew, I'm sure we've seen it out at Chalmers, the flannel during the winters, the t-shirt
That
over the.
was my entire style, like from ages like 15 to 20. It was just white tee and a flannel or the hoodie underneath, you know?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. It's
I
the
think the
same.
TV dramas from the 2000s probably really ingrained that one into me if I were to guess, but
Watch any rom-com between the
yep.
years 2000 and 2020. I promise you I could put money on it. Like, it's a flannel. It's a flannel,
The
I promise.
first when you said that, the first person that came to mind was Paul Rudd. I don't know
Yes, yes,
why.
Paul Rudd is like the king of that. Yes.
He's
Yes.
the first one I
Yes.
thought of. So I think it's just so funny. But okay, so I want to talk about modern fashion in film and like where we're seeing these trends really kind of popping up in style. Like for you, Andrew, I mean, you definitely as stylist, I'm sure you're starting to see maybe some things seep in to some of the trends within fashion right now in men's fashion. Um, where I want to start, are today's films taking more creative risks with fashion? Are we noticing that? And I'm obviously not talking about like the period pieces, if you will, more like those that are centered around the times of movies, like the drama, for example. Like those are the first movies that are like coming to mind for me, like the drama. One Night Only that's coming out in a couple days. Like it's funny in the movie they even say oh, you're a polo kind of guy. So like they're attaching that kind of to him as a person. But yeah, going back to the question, are they taking more creative risks with fashion? Emily, I'll start with you.
I think it really just depends. I'm also again looking at my letterbox. I think it just depends on the kind of movie, not just like, period pieces and such aside, even movies that are like of the day. I don't know if, because I have a very limited sort of worldview when it comes to fashion and film. I'm not a fashion girly. I leave that to the fashion girlies in the room, aka Blair. But from what I have noticed is, I think it just depends. Like two movies that I see here, the drama, like you mentioned, where what they're wearing is what I used to wear in a past life, where literally like that their entire house looked like a house that I lived in for many years. Like that, the style, everything about it was very familiar to me. But then I think of movies like oh God, what's it called? The really bright Boosters. I love Boosters. That was amazing. That was a visual feast, right? Forbidden Fruits as well. I think that it really just depends on the kind of movie, because I can pull movies from like different decades, different eras. Clueless, for example, a big one that a lot of people know about, where that I think was of the era, but also you could say was taking a creative risk because it was like, again, very campy, but yeah, I think it just depends on the kind of movie. That's my take.
How about you, Andrew?
I honestly don't know if I'll have too much of an. Can you still hear me, by the way?
Yeah, we still got you, man.
Okay. I don't know if I will have too much of an opinion on this. When it comes to some of more modern film, it's where my bag starts to run away there. But I will say this, at the end of the day, fashion is a cycle. It's something that what goes around will most certainly come back around, and so I think it's something there where you will start to see stuff that was, maybe those costume designs that were in the late 90s, early 2000s, like those are starting to circle back a bit more, at least in modern fashion now. You even had, in the early 2020s where, men were kind of trending almost toward that Americana look when it comes to, the straight leg on the jeans and then tucking in the shirts, almost like a greaser vibe, but, with a less, yeah, I guess rugged look there. So, it's something that is bound to happen, and you'll see the evolution of it is really just calling back to what it was 20, 30 years ago.
No, I think it's a great call out because, like, when I think of the most creative risk, it was a remake of a kind. Is Mean Girls. It wasn't your like Regina George to Regina George comparison, if you will, based on costume design. I mean, that's the first one that popped into my mind, and I feel like maybe it was just a cycle of the time, the type of person that would be considered popular nowadays compared to the Regina Georges of the world. So that's where my mind went. So that's a great call out, I think, Andrew. Blair, how about you?
Um, I think fashion and film right now and TV is either extremely inaccurate to what we're seeing in our day to day or to where fashion is right now, or it is very conformative. And that's one of my biggest issues right now, I'd say, is there's a lack of individuality with characters, and it's trying to create relatability in the form of conformity, which is very common in like times like recessions and COVID, what we went through. Like the past 5 years have been some of the most like transformative years in fashion in probably the last 30 years, and that is hugely on the fact that we all entered this like conformity era. That's when like the clean girl said, like the basics, like you would literally go to stores and it's just the same shapes, same colors, just over and over and over. I mean, you could literally walk through a mall and find the same top 17 times. And what happened is that started getting translated in film, and we started trying to create what Gen Z was dressing like, and it was like this weird, it looked like a costume on 20-year-olds. It was like really confusing. I was watching high school shows and I was like, have we seen a high schooler in 20 years? Like this is not accurate at all. And I think this is also going to the flannels. I think there are safe things people do in films, and trust me, I get it. When sometimes I'm designing, you don't get the luxury of time, and you don't get the luxury of super huge budgets or things. So the immediate, you're like, oh, I could just do a flannel. Like you get to that place sometimes out of tiredness. But I think we need to start pushing through as costume designers. We need to start pushing through and finding more unique things and creating staple costumes for films because they're just not there right now. There's so many films that are so amazing, but you can't walk away with one recognizable costume to that film.
Well, Blair, to your point, you mentioning that costume designers really do need to keep pushing through to kind of build that connection with an audience. Emily, what do you think some costume designers could do where you would even just notice like, oh, they have like the power here to make a moment. They're making a moment right here, right now.
Yeah, I think like to my point from before, I only just noticed Ned and Betty. I think that probably has been happening the whole time. I just haven't picked up on it. But also to Blair's point, I remember those movies from like the early 2000s. I remember the movies. I remember that they kind of were all wearing the same things and that, yeah, nobody is super memorable. And I think that when you have somebody who loves what they're doing, loves the work of fashion in film, and they marry it so well with what the director, the screenwriter, the cinematographer, even, because I feel like a lot of like lighting is just like the most important thing, in my opinion, in a film, and how a movie looks translates to how the movie's gonna feel. You know what I mean? And I think that when you have all of those teammates working together in tandem so beautifully, I feel like that's when things shine. Like that's when you remember, the costume, that's when you remember the fashion choices. And I think that even now I'm going to start looking for that a little bit more cuz again, it tells the story before a lot of times before the story even gets a chance to express itself. But yeah, there's a lot of movies that are getting lazy, or again, not even lazy. That's like not the right word, but like you said, Blair, we don't have the budget. We don't have the budget. We don't have the time. The turnaround time is tomorrow, and I just got the script. Okay, great. So we have to figure it out. But hopefully, bigger, not distribution companies. What are they called? Bigger. Blanking. What are they called?
Like studios.
Studios.
Yeah.
Yes, bigger studio or big, small, all the studios. Hopefully they start to see how important it is to the storytelling to pay attention to all of the departments, because it's not just the screenwriter, it's not just the director, it's a team that needs to work together for the story to make an impact to last decades, not just a weekend box office hit.
Yeah, most definitely. I want to kind of pivot now to the future of fashion in film. And I feel like this is a big take right now. We have the technology aspect. AI is going crazy right now. I know that there are apps where you can put in your entire closet and it'll pick an outfit for you. How might technology change costume design, even fashion, just overall moving forward? If anyone wants to take a stab at it.
Well, I think humanity will always crave humanity. And that's just like the beauty of the thing that AI has brought, is that since AI has become very prevalent, people are going out more. Like I went to a bowling alley last night and it was literally packed on a Wednesday night. And I was like, this is so beautiful to see people out. And I think so much of that is because people are kind of getting tired of, per se, also like the internet, but also AI as well. And we're starting to crave humanity again, because we will always crave it. So I think no matter how much AI improves to, reflect costumes, design costumes, be a part of the process, I think humans will always do it better, because you can't dress other humans unless you are human. I think that's kind of just like the beauty of it. That's my personal opinion. I could also totally have my ass whipped by a robot in 2 to 5 years. So like, I don't freaking know. It's really like a hard conversation, because you have some people in the fashion industry, they're like, you need to evolve, you need to learn it, you need to know how you could make a career out of it if that's what happens. And I'm like, there's no way a robot could like fucking pick the right bra to go with a girl's costume. There's just no way. They couldn't do it.
Most definitely. And I want to go to you, Andrew. Like you as a
Yeah.
stylist, like obviously, I know I would prefer to talk to someone about like, hey, does this fit me right? That kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
where do you see the differentiation from technology and what, say, someone in fashion could bring?
I think it's my take on AI in general is that you're never going to fully replace the human emotion behind things. And so AI, yes, it can pull from a bunch of articles. It can tell you the psychology behind wearing the color red or anything like that. To your point also, Marco, is, every human body is different, right? So when it comes to individually styling, right, I'm not going to name drop any of these apps, but we do know about them. They will just throw you a couple items and just kind of be like, hey, this would work best for this event, but then you put it on. And I'm especially seeing this in like women's fashion because, there is a lot more variety, especially when you're looking at body types, types of tops, bottoms, all that type of stuff. And so it's something you're never going to truly be able to capture just by looking at having a computer say, these items are going to work best because that to Blair's point earlier, you want it to ultimately flatter the actor actress, you want it to capture the moment. So there's so many different elements that you have to take in at once that I just truly believe AI won't be able to hit the mark on.
Yeah, and as a watcher, Emily, is that something that you feel you would notice? Like, oh, that is not a person right there. That was totally done by someone.
I think now, yes. I think now, at least, maybe not so much not a person. I don't know if I'd be able to tell that, but at least I think I'd be able to notice where, again, like as I was saying earlier, where all of the departments were beautifully married and made a story that in every single aspect hit all the different marks. And then other movies, stories, whatever, where that didn't happen, because I'm paying attention to it more now. I think with technology, it's a toughie because again, what I pull from is music. It's also happening in music so much, like you see all the AI, who knows what happening on YouTube and on Spotify and all these different places, and it's like what everyone was saying, you can do whatever you want with AI. AI can try and try and try and try, but it will never replace the human emotion, the emotional aspect of the art that is being created. At the end of the day, that's what filmmaking is all about. Every single department is making art. And I think that there's just not going to be a universe where, I mean, we're probably going to have to learn to live with it, and that's terrible. But it's never going to be a replacement for, because people are going to crave people at the end of the day, and they're going to crave that human connection more than anything.
But and more ending the conversation on a happier note here. What trends do we hope we're going to see more in film or just in pop culture altogether? Maybe come back around if you wanted to see something. I'm not gonna lie, I do love me a flannel, but I'm gonna steer clear of a
No,
flannel.
you can love flannels. There, I am not anti flannel. I'm anti using it as a cop out.
Fair, fair.
There is
I
one flannel in
enjoyed.
Obsession. There's one, and I was really intentional about it. My next film has like 4 flannels, but I'm like, you can't like it's you have to be intentional, you know.
So funny, but no, I mean, I love the boots. People are loving boots right now. I mean, being from Texas, I will wear boots out at in 100-degree weather, no problem. But yes, what are some trends that you're hoping either we see in film or just in pop culture altogether come back around, or that are hitting again? Andrew, I'll start with you.
Hey, the more performative cowboys on TV, I'm all down for, right? All right. Throw some cowboy boots on a dude walking around up in Soho, up in New York, right? That's all we need to see. No, honestly, it's something where I think as long as films start to follow the main moniker of where fashion is going now, how Blair had mentioned earlier, how everyone was starting to become conformative after COVID. You had the capsule wardrobes coming out. Everyone was buying the same basics. They were showing up, just doing the same thing. And obviously that's, been something that has been a theme in film. But now the idea of building a personal style is something that is important to a lot of people, right? And that's ultimately what brings people to me and doing what I do. So, I think showing that a bit more and allowing one individual character to have a lot of expression in the things that they are wearing, whether it just be little intentional things like the way their collars popped in an outfit or just random things like that that will ultimately just kind of embody the character as a whole. And I think that's the biggest trend more than anything else that I would love to see more of.
Emily, how about you?
I think mine actually goes in tandem a bit with seeing different women's bodies represented on screen. I think that that's really important as someone who's not a size 2, has never been a size 2 in her life. Would love to see a little bit of hip action out in the streets, because I feel like what we see a lot of the time is, you know, these amazing outfits that look really awesome on a specific body type, and then sometimes, you know, I might, for example, like my own experience, I might see something be like, oh, that's amazing. And I go try that thing on and it's like, okay, so that does not work on me like I worked on her. No big deal. We move on. But I think seeing all types of beautiful bodies represented on screen in super fun but also attainable, like things that I could go buy, right? Because I feel like a lot of times, like we've talked about, either it's the beige aesthetic or it's like so far out there that it's not necessarily like something that I would be able to even pick up because it's like not available to me. Even like, I mean, thrifting, I love thrifting and that's fine. But like also what you were saying earlier, Blair, I'm like, well, I can't be doing that either, you know? So I think for me, the trends I would like to see, and as like a woman, a young girl into a woman, that's always been something that I've craved, is seeing other bodies represented on screen, and that translates into what they're wearing and how I could then translate that onto myself. And I know other women feel very, very similarly, you know.
How about you, Blair?
You know, kind of going off what Emily was saying, like to me, I think more body type representation is huge, but I also think not dressing larger body types in full coverage clothing all the time is really huge as well. Actually letting people expose their skin and their bodies for where it's at that given point. And for men's fashion and film, this evolution for men's fashion has been happening like since like 2022. It's been really expanding and growing, and I've watched like a lot of like my guy friends in my inner circle. Sorry, also my cat he has to be near me, so he's going to be here. But all of my friends in my inner circle, they've really like started to have an interest in it and expressing themselves. And I think after kind of what Andrew was saying, like after this conformative era, now we're entering this like personal style, expressive era, which is really, really beautiful. And I really want that to start being translated in film. I feel like men's fashion and film specifically to me is one of my most irritating things that I see, because women's costumes will be so just like thought out, the jewelry, the layering, the piecing, and then like the man's like in a t-shirt and jeans. And sometimes that works. And then sometimes I'm like, who is this? And what does this mean to anything? And it was something I really wanted to do with Bear, was just like, I don't want him to be just the average brown hair leading male in a film. I want him to have something interesting and like building that backstory into why he picks the wardrobe he does. It was like really important to me. But yeah, I just think the expanding on individuality in film to me would just be very great. And that also comes with not casting the same type of individual over and over again, and allowing there to be an expansion of body types and types of people, and not stereotyping different types of people as well. So yeah, that's kind of like, I think there's a huge need for expansion in fashion and film.
Well, as always, we're going to do the lightning round questions. They're the same 5 questions we ask everyone here. First up, and we'll go around robin here. First up, what is your favorite movie snack? Mine, popcorn with some bunch of crunch in it. I had it last night, and my favorite thing in the world. Delicious. I love a sweet salty. Blair, how about you?
That's literally my exact combo with like an icy, like a bunch of crunch and popcorn is like the most hardcore combo ever. With like a Coke icy.
Emily, how about you?
I love cookie dough bites. I have one box of those and I'm good. And sometimes a Coke, but definitely the cookie dough bites.
Mine's a Coke Zero, so I'm here with that. I love that.
No, same.
Yeah. Andrew, how about you?
I'm a bit of an old soul. Give me the chocolate covered raisinets.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Next up, I got for you all, what's your favorite genre of movie? Mine, I'm going to go horror.
I like coming of age movies. I want to cry. I like that or animation.
Emily?
I like sad movies. I also like to cry. Yeah.
Feels good.
Andrew?
I'd be between either a rom com or a good old high fantasy, one of the two.
Nice. Yes, high fantasy. Yes.
Where do you sit in the movie theater? I am a middle. I am as close to the middle and close to the middle as you can get. How about you, Blair?
Wow. I was raised by lawyers, so absolutely fucking not. I'm always near the aisle and towards the back. The easiest access of exiting possible.
Yeah.
I like to be somewhere near where I could hop over the railing if needed. So I'm really happy like the middle. I would never sit there, but I fear everything though. So
I'm with you. I'm with you. Emily, how about you?
Roque. Roque is was where I stay in a
I love.
big theater, typically like an IMAX. K, seat like 12.
I like that. That's like row L for me, like row L-ish, and seat 12 too. I'm with you. Andrew, how about you?
God bless me with the world's smallest bladder. Get me on the aisle,
I love it.
right next to the door.
I
Yep.
love it. All right, are we doing matinees or are we doing late showings? I'm a matinee kind of guy. Middle of day. Give me a movie middle of day. Blair?
I'm like, if the sun's out, I can't be watching it. I have to do it at night, like 9 p.m. on.
Whoa, 9 p.m. I'm the same. I like 7:30, 8 o'clock because yeah, if I walk out of the theater and the sun is still out, I'll have like an existential crisis, so I can't do that.
Yeah, real. I need to sleep after.
Yes, at night. Yeah.
I feel like the movie just hits so much harder when it's at night. Like you walk out, it's quiet outside, it's kind of eerie. So whatever, even if it was like a happy-go-lucky film, something about it, just the
It's
vibes.
nice.
I was big. My dad used to take me out of school in high school and middle school.
Oh,
Um,
Mm,
I feel like that always goes to like the
that's
matinee kind of
cute.
thing. Like Spider Man, I was watching at like 3 p.m. on a Friday or like 1 p.m. on a
Oh,
Friday every single time. So yeah,
wow.
Guys, in LA, they were doing Odyssey screenings at like 7 a.m. and they were sold out. Like
No.
people were selling out this like 60 millimeter 70. Oh my God. I literally did a cinematographer. I'm gonna get roasted. Okay. Whatever. The Odyssey was sold out at 7 a.m. and I was like, who the fuck is getting up at, you have to get up at like 5:30 to get to that film.
yeah.
Can't be me.
And last question here for you all. Are we watching trailers or are we going in right when the movie starts? I am a trailer kind of guy. I want to see what's coming up. How about you, Blair?
Well, I like to dress up when I go to the movies, like in like movie sweat outfits. So I would say I'm usually always there right when the movie is starting because I take my damn time through the whole experience, like with the food as well. So yeah, I rarely ever see the trailers.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hit or a miss for me. Sometimes I like to get there right, like if the movie starts at 7:30, I'll get there 7:30 knowing full well I'm going to be there for half an hour before the movie starts. Other times I get there right at 8, so it just depends.
It's fair. And Andrew?
I'll skip the trailers, but it's typically not intentional. My girlfriend, if I give her the movies at 7:30, we'll be there at probably 8. Just natural, way of
That's
things there.
real.
So,
That's real.
Right,
yeah.
right.
You,
There's
you
no
do
reason
like
for us to be on
savings for a
time.
little bit.
No.
You did like savings for a little bit. Tell her it's a little earlier. Give you like 30-minute wiggle room.
I'm
I
still
love
getting dressed.
that.
If the movie starts at 8, it's 7:55, I'm getting dressed. See
That's
you later.
hilarious. Well,
Yeah.
thank you all for joining me in this conversation around fashion and film. This was so much fun. I had a blast doing this one. Everyone, as always, like, comment, subscribe. I'm going to have everyone's socials in the description for you all to follow them. Be sure you're following them. They all make great content. And as always, see you all in the next one. Have a great one.